Welcome to NTD News. I'm Angela Anderson. Many believe Republicans lost the House in 2018, at least in part because of healthcare. Trying to get ahead of the 2020 elections, President Trump says he wants to take that talking point away from the Democrats by creating a more popular Republican plan than Obamacare. NTD's Holly Kellum has more.
Health insurance is back in the news this week after President Trump declared that Republicans will become known as the party of health care.
The Republican Party will be the champion of pre-existing conditions.
In December, a federal judge in Texas found the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, unconstitutional because of its tax penalty called the individual mandate. While that case is being appealed, Trump says he's working with members of Congress,
for one in particular who is a total health care genius,
on an Obamacare replacement.
When the plan comes out, which we'll be showing you at the appropriate time, it's much better than Obamacare.
But with a Democratic House and a Republican Senate, he doesn't expect to get any bills passed this Congress. Instead, he hopes Republicans will take back the House in 2020, and when they do,
we'll all promise it's going to be our first vote, because we blew it the last time.
One health issue that may be addressed this Congress, however, is prescription drug prices.
I think we should test out Republicans' willingness to support some of the most aggressive reforms proposed by the president.
House Freedom Caucus Chairman Mark Meadows says he is in discussion with Democratic Congressman Elijah Cummings on the issue. His ambitious goal: bring down drug prices 20% by next year.
But I'm very optimistic in talking to senators, and talking to House members, and talking to the administration.
He says if members of Congress can't come up with anything that the president will sign, he expects that Trump will issue several executive orders to deal with the issue. Holly Kellum, NTD News.
Next, the House Judiciary Committee officially approved a subpoena to obtain the full unredacted report from Special Counsel Robert Mueller.
The committee voted Wednesday morning along party lines, with Democrats approving the subpoena and Republicans rejecting it. The vote comes one day after a deadline House Democrats set for Attorney General William Barr to provide the nearly 400-page Mueller report to Congress came and went. Barr says he is working with Mueller to release a redacted version of the report and hopes to release it publicly later this month. Wednesday's vote means House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler can issue a subpoena at any time for the report.
Due to overcrowded border facilities, Trump has said that if Congress does not take action, he will shut down the border. However, 2020 Democratic presidential candidates want to see more open borders. One even plans to decriminalize illegal border crossings. NTD's Miguel Moreno has the details.
Democratic presidential candidate Julian Castro told MSNBC that he not only plans to decriminalize border crossings, but also stop detaining illegal immigrants. Currently, a 2,500-person large caravan is on its way to the United States. In previous migrant caravans, the migrants have increased crime rates in Mexican cities, rushed American borders, attacked American officials, and within the caravan, MS-13 gang members have been found and arrested. But based on his interview, this doesn't seem to be a concern for Castro, adding that he believes the border is as secure as it's ever been. And while there are legitimate asylum claims, the courts have reported to CBP that they only make up for 10 to 15% of asylum cases. When a family unit enters, they claim asylum and are almost always guaranteed release with a court date years ahead, regardless of their case's merit. Meanwhile, CBP has told the Epoch Times that cartels use asylum seekers for profit, only getting them to the border for a price, and many women pay with their bodies. President Trump has said that he wants people to enter the United States, but if they enter, they have to do it legally. Mexican President Obrador said on Monday that he will help regulate the flow of Central Americans coming to the U.S.-Mexico border.
They're really apprehending thousands of people, and it's the first time really in decades that this has taken place, and this should have taken place a long time ago.
Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
Actresses Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin appeared in Boston federal court today to face charges tied to the largest college admissions scam uncovered in U.S. history.
Desperate Housewives star Huffman and Full House actor Loughlin, along with 11 other wealthy parents, were scheduled for court today after being accused of engaging in schemes that involved cheating on college exams and paying $25 million in bribes to buy their children entrance into well-known universities. Prosecutors have been holding plea talks with some 33 parents charged in the scheme. Prosecutors say the scheme was overseen by California college admissions consultant William Rick Singer, who has admitted to orchestrating the cheating scam and bribing coaches to falsely classify the applicants as recruited athletes at schools like Yale University and the University of Southern California. If no plea deal is reached and the defendants are found guilty, they will face time in prison. Prosecutors have not yet charged any of the applicants and said that in some cases the parents charged took steps to try to prevent their children from realizing they were benefiting from fraud.
Online marketplaces have drawn the attention of the Trump administration, which has decided it's time to clean up what has been called the Wild West in the trafficking of counterfeit goods.
White House economic advisor Peter Navarro said today that President Donald Trump has signed a memorandum to stop trafficking of counterfeit goods through online marketplaces. The memorandum is aimed at stopping the sale of counterfeit products through companies like Alibaba, Amazon, and eBay. The memo signed by Trump said that the value of global trade in counterfeit and pirated goods may rise to $500 billion a year, with about 20% of this trade infringing upon U.S. intellectual property. Navarro said the order requires the Homeland Security Department, together with the Departments of Commerce and Justice, to provide recommendations in 210 days on how to address the problem through better monitoring and enforcement. Navarro said that last year, when Government Accountability Office investigators bought brand-name goods from popular consumer websites, more than 40% turned out to be counterfeit. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
In this next story, speaking on the Trump administration's 5G development policy on Tuesday, Larry Kudlow, the White House's chief economic advisor, said there will be an aspect of regulation due to national security issues, but the entire 5G network will be operated by private companies to maintain the free market and free enterprise.
We want to use the private sector. We don't want the government to run 5G. FCC auction system, which parcels out the spectrum bands, will then be taken up by the various companies who are building this out. That's the way we want to keep it, have as much innovation as possible in that sector.
Mr. Kudlow said that the United States is doing very well with the construction of 5G infrastructure and that all the pessimism about China beating the U.S. is not true.
A new report, I think, shows we have deployed 94 5G, I'll call them installations or build-outs around the country. It's remarkable. We thought the number was in the 20s, and the latest report is 94, and that's a great thing.
At present, there are still different opinions on the 5G network operation model in the United States. Some experts believe that from the perspective of national security, the U.S. government and private companies must cooperate closely on the 5G buildup.
There are times when we need to think differently about how we do things. But it's going to take leadership from government saying this is what we need, and it can't be just, hey, AT&T, we need you to do this, because how would they be incentivized to do so in the current system? They're not.
Kudlow also said that the United States will take strong steps to prevent China from setting the global 5G standards.
The Chinese are moving to try to establish their own telecom standards around the world. We will be taking strong steps to prevent that and make sure that the standards are open to American and other companies.
Kudlow will attend the CTIA, the Wireless Communications Association of the United States, 5G Summit on Thursday.
In an effort to remove its reputation for being overpriced, Whole Foods announced today in a press release it is slashing prices by an average of 20%.
After being acquired by Amazon in 2017, Whole Foods has hoped to convert more Amazon Prime members into Whole Foods shoppers. Beginning today, the grocery store chain will be offering new lower prices for all customers and expanded Prime benefits. The emphasis is being placed on high-quality peak-of-season produce, doubling the number of exclusive weekly Prime member deals and deeper discounts. Executives of Amazon say their goal is to make healthy and organic food more accessible and pass on savings to the customer. Amazon said its Prime members can expect to save an additional 10% off sales items. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
An American woman and her driver have been kidnapped at Uganda's most popular wildlife park by gunmen demanding a ransom of $500,000, police said on Wednesday.
Kimberly Sue Endicott, 35, and Ugandan driver Jean Paul were on a game drive in Queen Elizabeth National Park when 4 gunmen ambushed their vehicle on Tuesday evening, a police statement said. Various illegal groups, from Somali Islamists to Congolese-based rebels, sometimes operate in Uganda. But the kidnapper's identity was not yet known. A Ugandan government official said an elderly couple also at the scene was not taken.
Now moving to the UK, a museum director wants a permanent space in London to show the history of terror, death and famine under communist regimes. Our reporter in London took a look at some of the artefacts that might be on display.
This is a gun of the sort that was used to kill people in Romania by the Secret Service.
Such items are stored in James Bartholomew's front room, at least for the moment. He hopes one day these artefacts will be on display in London in a museum that shows the terrors of communism, terrors that he says many young people don't know about.
I feel it's my generation's fault for being complacent, because when the Berlin Wall came down, it seemed like communism was forgotten. You know, everybody knew it was terrible. The communists knew it terrible. The people in the West knew it was terrible. Everybody knew that. Nobody would argue for communism at that point. But now, because we've got a new generation come up, they don't know about that.
A permanent exhibition of communist terror still remains an ambition rather than a reality, as the project awaits a major donor. But there's a collection of items building up in preparation, like this.
This kind uncle with his... but, you know, he was sending out orders to tell people to be killed, to be ruthless. This is propaganda. We've got to juxtapose that with what was actually happening, which was people were, in many cases, starving to death. If they said something out of line, they could be sent to prison or even be shot. The museum and everything we do aims to be objective, accurate and true. You know, we're talking about the deaths of 80 to 100 million people. No exaggeration or propaganda is needed. You just need to understand the facts.
The idea of the museum came together for him, partly because of the popularity of Jeremy Corbyn in England and Bernie Sanders in the United States.
These enormous support among young people for these people who I consider to have ideas which are dangerously similar to the communist ideas of the 20th century.
He was also compelled to act after seeing the House of Terror Museum in Budapest.
You know, you come out feeling shocked.
Before the physical museum materialises, the project is organising talks and publishing videos that show the realities of living under communist regimes. Jane Werrell, NTD News.
And the highly anticipated Marvel superhero movie Avengers Endgame has exceeded expectations in advance ticket sales, becoming the top-selling title within its first 24 hours of sales.
Fandango and Atom, 2 of the top ticketing websites in the United States, said first-day advance sales for Disney's Avengers Endgame surpassed the 2015 movie Star Wars The Force Awakens and 2017 Star Wars The Last Jedi, also from Disney. The new Avengers movie, which brings together multiple comic book characters, including Iron Man, Captain Marvel, Black Widow, Thor, and Ant-Man, marks the conclusion of 22 Marvel films. Fan surveys last year showed it was the most anticipated film of 2019. Fandango managing editor Eric Davis said in a statement that Avengers Endgame is now the highest-selling title in its first 24 hours of sales, and it accomplished that feat in only 6 hours. Adam said the movie has set a record for its mobile ticketing service, selling 3 times more tickets in the first hour than last year's Avengers Infinity War. On eBay, a single ticket for the opening day IMAX screening in Hollywood was being offered for $500. Starting bids for other tickets were around $35 each. Fans took to social media to complain about websites crashing, error codes, and long waits to get their tickets. Avengers Endgame starts its movie theater rollout on April 24th in Australia and China, before arriving in the United States on April 25th.
And that's all for today on NTD News. I'm Angela Anderson. Have a wonderful evening.